watching Carlton. Now World in Action reports on the dark side of the sun.
Six tourist murders in as many months. Police take on the gangs in America's holiday capital.
I just put a bandage on this. Fix it up.
Tonight, the dangers facing British tourists in some of the world's most popular resorts. How we're kept in the dark about those risks.
You do feel afraid for your life, really. There's no other way about it. You do fear for your life.
Montego Bay in Jamaica. The weather is hot, the Caribbean waters clear, and the tourists plentiful. Increasing numbers of Britons have been tempted here by brochures promising relaxation and a carefree fortnight. But when many of them check into their hotels, they see a different picture.
You feel a prisoner. As soon as it's dark, you feel a prisoner in the complex. You do not think you can go out of that hotel. Problems are total persistence of aggro you get walking down the beaches, on the streets, anywhere, drugs, women, get offered everything all the time. You just, every 50, 60 yards, it's do you want drugs, local ganja, marijuana, cocaine, all these things. And it's just aggro all the time. You don't want this on holiday, you come away for a peaceful time.
It's our honeymoon. We expected to be able to walk, hand in hand along the beach. We expected to go out and sit in the bars, and I expected to be able to go out dressed like this, which I don't feel safe to be able to do at night.
On the way, we were jet lagged when we got here. We were frightened out of our wits by the tour guide. Don't go here, don't go there, and we realised pretty much straight away that it was like the Bronx by the sea.
In 4 days, you get a tan like a Jamaican. This is the natural aloe vera, sir. It's good for the mosquito disease in Jamaica called totus. In 4 days...
While many of the resort's hawkers peddle nothing more than harmless local suntan mixtures, others cater for different tastes.
This is what the poorer class people use in Jamaica.
Dealers selling drugs operate openly on the main streets, often within yards of the biggest hotels.
Smoke, that's what I got. That's all I got.
We were repeatedly asked if we wanted drugs. This dealer only offered marijuana, but others said they had ecstasy and cocaine, even women if we wanted them.
We went to the Kentucky last night, which is just down the road there. Within half a mile radius of walking down there, about 5 or 6 guys hassling us for, drugs. Let me take you here, let me take you there, let me take you in a taxi all around the bay. Everywhere you go, they want money. And if you don't, they'll just say, okay, no, fight, nothing. Or they can get nasty if you like. One guy says, oh, you're English, we don't like you, you're racialist.
With security guards patrolling the entrances, the hotels seem to offer safety, but the streets can be violent. We spoke to one couple who'd been threatened with a knife. Another man had been mugged twice in a week.
The first night we arrived, there was a carnival on the main road here. We were approached by a group of men who took us for a long walk, telling us they'd show us a safe way back, and they took about £50 off me and my mate. And the second night, I was actually attacked on the hotel premises. A guy jumped out from underneath the stairs, asked me for my money 3 times. I refused, so he punched us and run off.
Most of the main tour companies don't warn holidaymakers about the persistence of hawkers, the presence of drugs or prostitution. More seriously, they don't mention a British government warning issued 9 months ago following an upsurge in crime, particularly against tourists. The Foreign Office advises visitors not to wear jewellery, to use taxis instead of public transport, and to avoid downtown Kingston, the capital, completely. Only when the tourists have arrived, having handed over their money, is that warning passed on.
We have no evidence at ABTA that customers are being kept in the dark about certain problems in Jamaica, for example, and we do believe that the best time to give that information is when the customer is in the resort, so they can actually think about it and behave in a certain way when they're there.
Would you be upset if you had spent the money and then when you got there you were given advice which didn't tally with the brochure?
If a brochure is inaccurate, then clearly it's a breach of the law. Brochures must be legal, decent, honest and truthful. If brochures are dishonest and they represent a resort in a way which is not accurate, then clearly that's a problem. But we don't have any evidence of customers complaining about Jamaica specifically.
Knowing the money I've spent, I wished I would have spent it somewhere else now.
I think I prefer to stop in Blackpool or Rhyl.
It's certainly not the paradise which is painted in the brochures. It's very, very unsafe. I certainly wouldn't come here again.
Today, I've been in touch with the rep. Actually, we didn't know you was coming here. We tried to get off the island. We're a week early. I've just had enough of the place.
This year, 11 million holidays will be sold in Britain. Long-haul packages are now the fastest-growing sector of the market. Cheaper travel means holidaying in countries like Jamaica is no longer the preserve of the wealthy.
Increasingly now we're seeing package travel being offered in far-flung corners of the world, where traditionally it's perhaps been in the Mediterranean, here in the UK, but more and more it's further afield. Our lifestyle and our standard of living is so often very different to the local population, and a camera that we might have with us, some goods that we're carrying around in a bag or whatever, represent to them very real value, and perhaps not so to ourselves, and we become a target. And whether that target is for the hustling which often goes on, or indeed just out-and-out crime, I think it's a fact that we must accept, and I think that information ought to be made available and ought to be made known to anyone booking a holiday in a resort such as that.
But tour companies and travel agents are often shy when it comes to this sort of information. This reference book, available to all travel agencies, is the industry's own guide to the resorts advertised by the main companies. Compare its descriptions with the brochure from Thompson, Britain's biggest tour operator. Acapulco in Mexico.
For glamour, fun and year-round sunshine, Acapulco is hard to beat.
A significant proportion of its inhabitants eke out a living in the sprawling shanty towns up in the hills behind the resort. Visitors should beware of street crime.
Mombasa's coastline of superb coral sand beaches lining a sparkling blue Indian Ocean is an incredible place for relaxation.
A common complaint among visitors is the constant pestering from hawkers on the beaches, and in practice, few visitors seem to lie out on the sands. At night especially, it is wise to take taxis rather than walk anywhere.
Brochures are effectively a selling tool. Whilst some people would be happy to see negative things in the brochure, I'd really wonder whether some other people might even notice it.
Superb white beaches and gently swaying palms, Goa is full of scenic charm.
The visitor must be prepared to find some people living in makeshift shacks, beggars on the beaches, and the odd rat.
Bali's unhurried pace of life, charming people and palm-fringed sands lapped by a warm sea will all tempt you to stay.
Bali's hawkers, often found in droves at the popular sightseeing spots, are persistent to the point of being a nuisance. The larger hotels employ security guards to patrol their beaches and grounds.
People, generally speaking, book a holiday to get away from it all and go to a destination. The fact that there is crime there is incidental, but I do think that the holiday companies do take steps to give accurate information about the destination so that it is properly described. Information about crime figures may not be included, but how much information do you include and how far do you have to go?
They're in the business of selling holidays, and we can see from the brochures and the style of the brochures that it's all about the appeal of a particular resort, the appeal of a particular hotel. To put the downside in there, in the terms that it's put in the Holiday Trade Gazetteer, certainly would turn people off, and they would be looking elsewhere for the holiday. So I don't believe, personally, it's in the interests of the travel trade to let all this information be made known to the purchasing public.
Even potentially life-saving information can be withheld from tourists when they're booking holidays. Last year, extremist Muslims in Egypt said they were putting Western tourists on their death list. In October, they claimed a victim, a British nurse, Sharon Hill.
We went shopping together. She came for tea every week. She told me all her secrets. She was just my best friend. She liked holidays abroad. She'd been to Tunisia, Italy, Mallorca, several places. Then she wanted the itch to go on her own. A bit of adventure, I think. So she opted for this safari-style holiday.
Sharon was on a bus with 6 others when a terrorist gunman opened fire on the vehicle north of Cairo. She was hit in the stomach and chest. Only afterwards did her family learn of the terrorist warning.
Well, it was the country in turmoil. I mean, it just wasn't a safe place to go to. But nobody was aware of it. Where Sharon was shot in Beirut, they actually closed the whole town down for 2 weeks the previous August. So, I mean, the Foreign Office must have known about it. I can't believe they didn't know what was going on out there because it was on such a grand scale. And apparently, from some of the newspaper cuttings, there have been 11 separate attacks on tourists.
The day after Sharon's murder, the Foreign Office did issue a warning for those intending to visit Egypt. But at her inquest, the coroner criticised the tour company for failing to issue its own safety advice before customers booked.
If they have knowledge that there have been untoward events, then I think there is a clear moral duty upon them to warn clients. I also believe that it's arguable that they would have a legal duty, a duty of care to those who use their services, to pass on any information they may have, leaving it to the traveller to decide whether he wants to go on that particular holiday or not.
We believe that is best passed on when people are in the resort so they can actually act on that when they're there.
But once again, they're then in the danger zone. It's perhaps too late, isn't it?
Most people who go to somewhere like Egypt are travelling in parties. They're not travelling independently. And so being with a group, therefore they're much more in control of the situation. They're in a bus, and therefore they are travelling as a group. They're not likely to be in the face of any form of danger. There have been incidents, and they've been isolated, and I do not think the sort of information which we're talking about here could easily be passed on in a brochure in a way which would be helpful to customers.
Travelling as a group didn't protect 5 more Britons in Egypt last week. They were injured in a bomb attack on their vehicle. The Muslim extremists have now killed 3 tourists, and the Foreign Office says further attacks must be expected. But we have evidence that travel agents are still not passing this on. Posing as tourists, we've contacted 30 agencies asking about holiday availability in Egypt. Not one of them told us of the Foreign Office warning.
Power 96, hello Miami, it's me, Cox on the radio. It's a Memorial Day weekend as we start to see just how hazy we can get by Monday.
While far-flung resorts become more popular, America remains the favourite long-haul destination for Britons. This year, 2 million will visit the US. More than half of them will go to Florida. But recently, the Sunshine State's image has taken a battering. Violence against tourists has reached new heights, particularly in Miami. Away from the glitz of the beach and downtown, there's a different Miami, and its people want their share of the tourist billions.
There is a very close correlation in tourism between levels of violence in a given destination and the gap between rich and poor. And I think that was some of the problem we have here. We do have an underprivileged community here. Everyone knows that. The gap between rich and poor is a sizable one. There have been conflicts in the past based on those economic differences, and they're a contributing factor.
Of the 6 tourists murdered in Florida in the last year, 1 was from England. 2 more Britons have been killed in New Orleans, another in Washington at the weekend. But many more have been attacked.
Well, we were robbed in Miami. We'd only just been there a very short period of time, matter of 5 minutes, and we approached traffic lights which were at red, and from nowhere 2 youths came and started to attack, smashed the car windows in and set about attacking us.
The first week we were there was a mugging. Towards the end of that week, there was a rape of a tourist. And the day before we were due to come home, there was a murder actually in the car park of the hotel that we stayed in.
We were broken into by two youths, and one had a knife, one had a gun. My friend got shot in the head. I fought with the other guy who'd hit me with a club. I ended up going down the stairs, and it was the most terrifying experience of our lives.
This is the souvenir of the bullet that's still inside me, where a man shot me because I wouldn't hand over my wallet.
I've asked the supervisors, if we get a scene tonight anywhere, that a supervisor should respond. A chase, foot chase.
Police have now put tourist protection at the top of their agenda.
Supervisor respond, we do what we have. We do not desist from doing our jobs out there. The trend in the last few years is that more and more of them are becoming armed, either with a firearm or a knife. We've arrested a robber at 11 years old that's doing these robberies, 12 years old, but the average span is from within 14 to 22 years old.
Because we know we're having a problem with the tourists. So every time I see a car,
In an effort to reduce attacks on holidaymakers, the police have set up TRAP, the Tourist Robbery Abatement Programme. Tourists who stray into high-crime neighbourhoods become easy targets. Officers like Joey Gannam try to reach them before the criminals.
You know, and since they come down, I'm stopping all the Z's and the Y's, and most of them have been tourists.
This is a very
Yeah, it's a bad area.
Yeah,
It's a bad area. So we're stopping other cars and make sure, you know, if they're lost or anything, we'll get them out of here because this is such a good area to be here. We consider this area one of the hot spots where a few of the tourists have been held up. That's what they look for. You know, like if you're driving mellow with your window down, and you'd be surprised how quick they strike. You can tell that way they drive too slow, or they start looking to the sides. In other words, they're giving themselves up because they're telling the bad people out there, look, I'm a tourist, come and get me.
The robberies itself, it doesn't happen at any specific location. Now, we have those areas that we consider as hot spots, but robberies can take place at any given time.
Frank Dean is also with the TRAP squad. He's found tourists who've got lost in Miami's worst areas.
Usually when they get this far up, they're usually stopping and asking for direction. And sometimes you may just have someone standing on the corner who's just looking for someone that's lost, and they will begin to beckon them over, you know. Can we help you? Are you lost? And it seems as though they want to be helpful, but in reality they're not.
25 red 2 out there and 25 red 2 out there also.
It used to be called Miracle Mile. It was a miracle that you were able to make it through from 62nd to 71st Street before anything happened. Someone was shot, stabbed, or mugged. This avenue became dead because a lot of the buildings around here, because of the crime, people just moved out.
Could a tourist coming from the airport find himself in this area?
Sure. We find them all over the place. And they're just lost. And if you're not being watchful and you're not being on your guard as to what's happening, you could very easily become a victim.
Visitors have been getting lost in Miami for years. It's not just visitors from abroad. Even American tourists complain about the confusing signs from the airport to the downtown and beach areas.
There are tips out there. I mean, we published for more than 2.5 years a safety brochure, basically telling you what the do's and don'ts you ought to do in this community. We are more than willing as a community to provide you with that and to work with you to understand our road systems or to understand what the safety concerns are if you ask for them.
2 months ago, Miami was shocked by a violent murder which many blame on the city's chaotic sign system. German tourist Barbara Meller-Jensen became confused approaching a toll booth sign on the airport expressway. After leaving the main road, she became lost, an easy target for a local gang of robbers. They rammed her hire vehicle, beat her up, then drove their car over her as her children looked on. The German consul was outraged at the murder. There was even talk of a German boycott of Florida. Cynics say only this potential loss of tourist revenue led them to act.
No one likes to admit that, but pocketbook issues are usually pretty powerful. in terms of affecting change. So I think the action on the part of the Germans and others who threaten boycotts work to accelerate and help solve the problem.
Within days, new signs had appeared directing visitors to beaches. But there are still only a few. Tourists complain they're too small and difficult to read on the freeways. The German murder prompted another safety measure. Traditionally, rental car plates have begun with a Y or Z, making it easy for criminals to spot tourists. Rental firms were told to change them.
This has to be a tourist because she just came up Liberty City and she's gonna go on Stereo 112.
But every night, the trap patrols find cars still displaying the outlawed plates.
How you doing, ma'am? No, the reason to stop is because I noticed the tag and right. We're stopping everybody and make sure that you're okay.
Just talking about that, trying to get from over
On this night alone, Joey Gannon spotted 15 cars with the Y or Z plates. This woman was given directions back to the freeway. She knew about the dangers of getting lost.
She's down here, she just rented the car, but her sister-in-law last week, when she was at the light, saying what we were doing, they attempted to break into her car.
There will be Y and Z tags for a while. You cannot produce them in enough quantity to change them overnight. It's just impossible.
Considering the amount of money that tourism earns this state, I mean, surely things could move a bit quicker.
As with any state, as with any government, things have to go through the state legislature, and sometimes they do take longer than we would like to. Now, we have lobbied very strongly to have the Y and Z tag removed. The governor has done so through an order, an executive order, and we hope that the state legislature will follow through.
Hey, could you try to keep them calm, you know? Keep their lips. They're so a bit scared. I can understand, you know?
On the streets of Miami, a terrifying example of what can happen if you stray into the wrong neighborhoods. This man, a Haitian, was looking for a place to stay when he was spotted and followed by a local gang.
According to the victim, he was approached by 4 black male subjects. 3 of them mixed up the cars with guns and ordered him to give all his possessions to them. He gave the possessions up and they assaulted him also before leaving.
After taking $1,000 from the man, the gang had pistol whipped him. He was treated for cuts and shock. Attacks on visitors have gone down since the police started their tourist patrols. But even senior officers say they can't keep up the patrols indefinitely. They want people to be better informed about the areas to avoid before they arrive.
We think there's more that can be done. We've recommended it on the video on the airlines that safety films be shown so that you have a captive audience. When you come over here and you're on an aircraft for 8 or 9 hours, you don't have to use the video 8 or 9 hours. During mealtime or something, they could show very pointed type films that will enable these people to protect themselves.
But British tourists receive little safety information before they arrive. In contrast to the Germans, our own Foreign Office merely advises us to carry muggers' money. And as with other destinations, most travel brochures fail to warn of the possible dangers. As the holiday season begins in earnest, millions of people will put their trust in tour operators and travel agents. There are growing calls for the public to be better informed before they book.
My criticism of the holiday brochure is not what it tells you, it's what it doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you about those areas in that particular resort that may present a risk to the holidaymaker. It doesn't tell you about the difficulties that may be experienced by way of personal security, about violence in that particular resort. And this is information that every holidaymaker has a right to know.